This is Jordan Tower with JT News. Make sure you smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Let's get right into the news, okay? So we're going to get into Young Buck and 50 Cent because this is funny. He's never explained it this way, and I think that's because I'm noticing something that happens to people 10 years after something passes. They try to rewrite history in their favor. So anyways, first let's get into 50 Cent jokingly said he would spar with Mayweather. Obviously, that'll never happen, okay? He said I couldn't come down to his weight class. But also, it's Mayweather, bro. you know that's your friend. You know that you get it wouldn't be good. Then we got Rick Ross saying, "Would you even want a verse?" Somebody brought up, "Would you do a versus with 50 Cent?" And he said, would it even be entertaining? I mean, the man can't make a hit. The man can't make any hits anymore. I make hits. My music's better. Rick Ross is really good at rapping. Rick Ross is good at making songs, but he's made the same song over and over and over again in his career. And nobody's taking anything away from that. I'm not saying 50 Cent's the most amazing person right now to make music either. But he did just put an album out with Pop Smoke. He did a record with Pop Smoke, and it was #1. Yes, Pop Smoke passed, and that's probably what helped it get to #1. But still, it's a hit record, So it's like you can't really use that excuse. I think that 50 Cent and Rick Ross's careers don't really compare, but they have equally amount. Rick Ross, I gotta say, he reappears to be more consistent, making noise every few years, but he hasn't evolved. 50 Cent's evolved a little bit more. Rick Ross did get his money. His income streams, he made them more versatile with like Wingstops, and he spread them out with different kinds of income streams coming in. He's doing, ads, doing this, he's doing a little bit of everything. But Rick, I don't think anybody's really checking. Like his last album flopped. Port of Miami 2, it flopped. He's kind of in the same boat as 50 Cent right now, where he's like legendary, you respect him, but like musically isn't that exciting anymore. Same with 50, it's not super exciting anymore. It's just not. I'm more excited to see 50 dropping this BMF project and that kind of stuff. Rick Ross is just Rick Ross, they are who they are. Moving on from that, you got Young Buck now explaining how his problems with 50 Cent started. Now, the way he tells it here, and I could see how kind of this was an issue and kind of got into it, but he said the issues between Sha Money and, which was the president of G Unit at the time, and he was there with 50 since the beginning, and, managed most of the guys on G Unit. And he said when they had their split, 50 gave us an ultimatum to switch managers, and I'm the only one that didn't switch managers. I had a close relationship. He tried to make it sound like he's so real, and that's why I'm loyal to Sha Money, and I wouldn't switch it, and 50 Cent kind of just let me dwindle in the wind with my second album. Well, first to do this, now, it really was over Young Buck not taking care of responsibilities, not showing up to shows, kind of relying on the label, just like a lot of the guys did, and they admittedly so, relied on the label instead of going out there and getting their own hustle, So anyways, let's get into this. So it started, 50 Cent Sha Money. This kind of exploded back in 2015. This kind of got to a head, even though Sha Money had been out of the company for, almost 10 years at this point. Sha Money had joined Epic Records around 2013. But anyways, Sha Money responded to 50 Cent saying, why are we talking about this instead of good music? Where the hits at? I've been consistent since I left. Who wants to be partners with 50 Cent? And then he said, 100% nothing. You destroyed what was built, and you'll continue to do that. Now, around the time they had their fallout, you know, this is like right after Game and him fell out. Like the whole company, I always notice this, once one person part of a movement starts to move against the movement, it just starts to crumble. We saw it with Dipset. We've seen it with many crews. Terror Squad, when Remy Ma kind of went against it. Like, it just starts to crumble, and it's not the same. And it's a shame, because people don't look at the company as... protect the company by any means, because that's everybody's paycheck. But they always think they can break out on their own and do their own thing. In the Game's case, it kind of worked. So 50 Cent did a whole thing on this. Back then he said it stemmed from financial disagreements, and Sha was becoming too greedy when it came to money. When the money came, when the check came, Sha Money started going like everybody else, just started reaching in my pockets, trying to get the money as much as they could get. He charged most. He changed the most. He's every change for the track Bloodhound. What did it say? He's charged. Oh, okay. It says he charged the most for everything, for the track Bloodhound. Get what you're trying. Cool. Just give him the money. Oh yeah. Because he had said he was asking for 50 grand. I said cool. Then I thought about it and said, if I gave him 50 grand, that's it. Because he's been paid for all his services, everything. Like, you know, engineering and everything else. 50 even told him, don't take the 50,000, take 30,000 and a point. 30,000 and a point in sales on my record. 1 point was worth $1.3 million. Because we sold 13 million records on that first album. So I gave him 1.3 million instead of 50 grand. And then after that, after the record took off or sold so many copies, Jimmy Iovine then came around, but Sha didn't take no risks. He took all the money on the table instead of like the long-term investments. So there's a check ready to be cut for G-Unit Records. They gave me 15 million. When I get to 15 million, I see them round again, looking ready to start reaching in my pockets again. He said, you ain't getting none of this money because you took your equity out of the equation immediately. You were paid on everything you've done. So really what was happening was Sha Money was getting a salary and everything, and he didn't want equity in the company and equity in everything he was doing, which means you didn't really believe in it, right? In a sense. He just thought it was a quick money grab. And 50 Cent said, okay, well, if you're not going to invest with me and you're going to take the money up front, you're getting paid for your services and you're not being a team player. So you're going to get that kind of treatment. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. So then anyways, Young Buck. So they had their differences, and he was phasing Sha Money out of the company, which was probably a good move because once things go bad, you can't trust that person to be president of the company anymore and running your artist projects. If there's bad blood, this guy could be a Trojan horse inside the company and try to take the whole company down. So you gotta just remove him. So 50 Cent warned everybody, and yeah, Young Buck probably didn't get as much freedom with his album because he didn't switch up. But also, it was really because, remember, 50 Cent and Young Buck had their issues because Young Buck had these... He spent all his money and didn't take care of what you got to take care of every year in April, okay? Got to pay Uncle Sam. And 50 Cent had to bail him out of a situation. But up until that point, Young Buck was going around saying FG Unit, FG Unit, FG Unit, right? Remember that? Big fallout about that. I remember he called 50 Cent crying. He called him crying in like, what was that, 2006 or 7? That's right around his album came out. Crying to 50 Cent. I messed up, man. Come on, man. We all remember this Young Buck crying thing, okay? Let me see if I can pull it up. It was because he had issues. That he was...
Today it's like I'm handling it wrong. I done got out of line a little bit with you. So I swear to God I have.
50 no. Don't worry about that. You see me? Don't worry. They work out.
And them niggas.
They do like
See, you heard him crying, and 50 Cent was like, don't worry about that, man. It's okay. So I think there's a lot more to it, but Buck's trying to rewrite history like he did it as a real guy. And 50, I like Young Buck. I think Young Buck is one of the better rappers out here. But I see him trying to rewrite history. And if that was the case, and you guys split up over that, why sign back to 50 Cent in 2013 when he released you from the label upon your request with your lawyer in 2009 and 10? It makes no sense. Why would you go back to a bad situation? That's all I got to say about that, because like it just doesn't add up. Anyways, guys, that's all I got on this. We got more news. I don't want to drag this out too long. This is Jordan Tower with JT News. Smash that like button, and I'll check you on the next one.